Hey everyone, it's been a minute, but I'm finally back with another fly tying video. Today I'm going to be tying a new pattern in my Royale series of flies called the Drabby Royale. The other three patterns in the series are more or less attractor flies, and this one kind of takes the same pattern but makes a more drab, realistic version of that fly. So it's a good complement to the other attractor patterns in the series. I rely on it a lot when the fish just don't want those flashy, kind of bold colored flies and want something a little more drab and realistic. So it's done well for me in competitions or when the fish are just kind of in a funky mood for the day and they're just not hitting the attractor patterns as well. It works great as a complement to the other Royale patterns. I like to fish both on the same rig, and then you can kind of cover both your bases. So if you're a big fan of the other patterns in this series, then this is a good one to have in your box. Of course, if you're not a fly tyer, the Drabby Royale is available on my site, TroutFliesUtah.com, for purchase, and you can pick up all three colors there. So in front of us here, we have all the materials we'll need for this fly. These are all the materials for the brown, olive, and black versions I have. Pretty simple fly. Should only take a few minutes to tie. It's a great one to put in your box if you need to tie a bunch and build up your collection. In the vise, I've got a size 14 Driftstone jig hook. I'm pairing it with a 3mm blotted tungsten bead. This is a black nickel one, also from Driftstone. To tie in materials, I'm using A-Dot Semperfli Classic Wax thread in brown. I've created a little bit of a thread dam behind the bead and then taken my wraps to the back of the hook. For a tail, I'm using brown Rooster Coq de Leon. I'm pulling the fibers off at a 90-degree angle, that way the tips are aligned, and then measuring about a shank length of the hook and tying in a nice neat little tail. Just get in there and snip off the butt ends. As you can see, my thread dam wasn't quite thick enough, so I'm just seating that bead a little bit and then taking a brown Nature's Spirit barred turkey biot. This is from a right wing feather. I like to use, as a right-handed tyer, I like to use the right wing feathers and tying. I'm going to tie it in with the dull side facing me. I like to do it this way because when you wrap it, it creates a two-toned segmented body. If you use the left wing, you'll get nice segmentation, or nice like ridging segmentation, but you won't get the two-tone colors. So personally, I prefer to tie in my turkey biots this way. I'm going to just add a little bit of super glue to the thread wraps because the biots are a little delicate, and this way if trout's tooth gets in there, it might save it for a few more fish before the natural material starts to deteriorate. But if you tie it tight to the hook and tie it in clean with touching wraps, generally they're pretty durable. You can get quite a few fish out of a single fly. So I've used my rotary function and just wrapped it forward. If you take your thread wraps and pull it up straight against the bead, sometimes you can rip it off. Here, I did not manage to do that, so I gotta come in with my scissors and whip out the butt end here. For a thorax, I'm using brown squirrel hair dubbing. Just creating a nice size appropriate dubbing loop, or not dubbing loop, dubbing noodle, and then wrapping a thorax right behind the bead. Again, this dubbing doesn't have any flash to it, so it stays nice and drab and natural and gives it kind of that nice buggy profile. For a soft hackle collar, to give it a little bit of movement, I'm using a natural dark dun CDC feather from TroutHunter. I've snipped the fibers to length and then cut about 6 to 8 fibers off in a material clip. Here I'm using my bodkin to flatten my thread out and create a split thread dubbing loop and putting the CDC fibers into it. Next, just spin your thread back up and it'll lock in those fibers. I like to do my CDC loops this way, as opposed to using a thread and doubling the thread and then adding the materials in and spinning the thread loop back up. I think it's a little bit cleaner on small nymphs, just because there's half the thread in there. And just wrap the CDC around and use your fingers to preen the fibers back with each wrap. Clean it up and then just do a 5 or 6 turn whip finish, and that is your Drabby Royale. Seat the knot, and then I always add a little bit of head cement to your fly. But your mileage may vary on that. Make sure to not add too much. You don't want your CDC fibers soaking head cement. But anyway, that's your finished Drabby Royale. Again, it's a great fly when fish are being a little snooty. It comes in black. Really, you can do any color iteration you want, but I found brown, black, and olive do the best for me, depending on size and what insects are out, and just kind of match the hatch or match the net. Anyway, here's a couple of fish catches on it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Down, I'll measure. Such a subtle take, man. Just nothing. It's like the slightest hesitation. I mean, these fish do get beat up in this run, for sure. Took my new experimental